Welcome back, or if it's your first time, I'm glad to have you here. I'm Matt Fendora, and you're tuned in to the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast, where we journey together toward becoming the best version of ourselves. Using mind, body, heart, and spirit as the anchors of our podcast, join me as we set sail into the depths of self-discovery, unraveling the interconnected layers that shape our growth. If you resonate with today's conversation, consider subscribing to the podcast. Your support means the world to us and ensures you never miss an empowering episode. Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast, a podcast all about being the best version of yourself through mind, body, heart, and spirit. Today, I am joined by Dr. Libby McGugan. Dr. Libby McGugan helps forward-thinking business leaders who want more freedom, empowerment, and peace of mind to live and lead as their true selves. She loves this work as it shifts people from fear to love and opens them up to make powerful, positive changes in themselves, their organization, and the world. Her background as a medical doctor, published author, and TEDx speaker means they also get the added benefit of a simple and clear approach to a much deeper understanding of themselves and how much they matter in shaping things for good. Throughout 20 years as a medical doctor, including 10 years as an emergency medicine consultant, she saw firsthand the end result of stress and how it affects our physical, emotional, and professional health. She has also met incredibly inspiring people who have overcome remarkable health changes outlined in her TEDx talk. She now loves working with business leaders and teams who genuinely care about inner success for themselves and the people they work with. For a fulfilling life, outer success is balanced with inner success. The work Dr. Libby McGugan does points people towards this. Some of her proudest accomplishments include seeing the people she works with light up as they connect with wisdom, publishing The Power of the Lemon and her novels, getting film interest in her books, and being with her partner. What makes her heart sing? Seeing people light up to wisdom and writing Hans Zimmer soundtracks. Without further ado, here's Dr. Libby McGugan. How are you doing today, Dr. Libby?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you, Matt. It's lovely to be here. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Really interested in some of the conversations that we're going to have today because I feel when somebody makes a transition in their career that's so vast as yours, somebody who goes from a fulfilling career to switching that up, there's so much, there has to be a story behind that. And I'd love to start there of first off,
Yeah.
why did you get into medicine to begin with? And then why did you transition out to being more of the mentorship consultant coach person?
They're good questions. I guess I got into medicine at the beginning because as a child, I was fascinated by the miracle of the body and how everything just knew what to do. We eat food and our body knows how to digest it. Our heart knows how to beat. We know how to breathe without consciously thinking about it. So I guess at a very young age, I was aware of the intelligence of the body. Um, and that's what drew me towards understanding more about it. So I went into medicine. Um, I loved it as a career, but I realized that the focus is very much on, and rightly so, on curing illness instead of focusing on health. And there is a difference, and we need both, absolutely. And I guess as I moved through my career, I mean, it was a very humbling career. I met lots of incredibly inspiring people who had immense health challenges and who found a way through them. And also, there are people who you meet, it's the most vulnerable time of their lives. So it's a privilege to be there and to serve them. It was an amazing career. However, I just, for me personally, I felt I was still drawn towards the intelligence behind the whole system, and I wanted to find out more about it. So I kept meeting these people who had recovered from conditions that medicine couldn't cure. And that got me really interested in what is it they're doing that's different. So I eventually I left my job in 2013. I was a consultant or attending, I think you call it in America, but a well-established job. And people thought I was a bit nuts to leave, actually. But I had this curiosity about what is it these people are doing that's different. And the job is so busy, you don't really have headspace to try and figure extra things out. So I took a step back, went part-time for a while, and then actually left my job. And one of the reasons I left was a lady who I highlight in the TEDx talk that I've given, who recovered from a brainstem stroke. And, there is no cure for this medically at the moment. But she decided her path was going to be different. So through focused practice and attention, she got herself out of hospital 9 months later and went running 3 months after that. So, people like that stopped me in my tracks and made me want to learn from them. So I did. I learned, I kind of left my job, began to speak to these people, learn from them. And that took me into a whole field of, learning from athletes, what's their mindset when they perform at their best. That took me into kind of psychology, philosophy, physics, and background full circle to spirituality, which I think is, the human spirit is the core of this. And I had kind of missed that part as I'd kind of gone through it. So very organically, I began to work with people, just teaching them what I'd learned and learning all the time from other people. And it's now what I do. It's focusing, helping people really focus on the potential within them for what's right for them, so their inner wisdom, you could say.
So, who were some of the first people that you tried to learn from?
You mean out in the well-known people? Is that what you mean? Or
Uh, just in general, because it started off with you said your patient. You eventually went
Mhm.
over to athletes and started learning. Was who did you start off with? I'm just going to study athletes, or was it, hey, I'm going to study these patients that I've had, and how the heck did they do this?
Yeah, it started with the patients. It started with people who had health challenges, and I just went to meet them. I spoke to them and listened to their journey and what they were doing. And what I found was they all had something in common. They had a real desire to live, a very powerful desire to live, and um, what they did was most of them had a long-term goal. Maybe it was a family wedding, or it was, you know, getting out of hospital for Kate, being with her children. Um, everybody had a long-term goal, but what they then did was they broke it down into bite-sized chunks that they could deal with on a daily basis. So, um, so I learned from those people first, and it just kind of naturally evolved to speaking to other people who'd had immense challenges in their lives and who had overcome things that most of us would find really challenging. And it made me realize that there's something deeper, there's something more underneath all of this that we can tap into. It's not to guarantee that everyone can do this in the way that these people did, but it's just to open the door of possibility for people that it is available. Yeah.
Where do you think that power came from?
Their spirit, their human spirit. They had a desire to be here and to do more and to contribute more in whatever way, whether it's with their family or their career or whatever it was. They had a desire to show up and to give more and to be part of things for longer. So I think there's a very powerful force within all of us, that your life force, you could say, which guides us and leads us to the right opportunities and to fresh thinking, which
Mm.
shows us what is possible. Whereas most of us are stuck in our personal minds. Most of us are conditioned from childhood upwards to buy into conditioned thinking, and then we assume that those beliefs are true when in fact they're not. They're just assumptions.
Hmm.
So the work I do with people now, and what I've learned in my own life and through listening to other people, is that when you get past or before your thinking, when you come back to who you are in your essence before thinking, you have access to this incredibly intelligent life force within you that will show you what the right next step is.
Hmm.
Mm.
So outside of learning about that human spirit that we have and people taking their long-term goals and breaking that down into the bite-sized goals, what else did you learn from doing all this research on why people were able to overcome all these obstacles?
Um, Joy was a big part of it, actually. You know, some of the people I spoke to actively did things that they enjoyed doing. Like they made time in their day to go for a walk, to watch a comedy, you know, to spend time with people they loved, and they savored those joyful moments. So they prioritized that in their life. And I think that's an important thing because that really what we're talking about here is an energetic state of being that these people manage to tune to, and which all of us can when we let our thinking go. You know, we can be caught up in all the worry of what's happening or the challenges we're facing, and there's it's not to dismiss them; they're still there. But when we allow ourselves to expand beyond that and connect with our natural joy and just be present, enjoying what's in front of us right now, it shifts our state of being. And actually, I've heard it described really well that it actually changes us to have a kind of healing frequency, you could say, which is
Mm.
or what our cells love. You know, our cells love to be in a state where they are functioning at their best. But when we engage in addictive thinking patterns that are unhelpful or stressful or worrying or whatever, that sends a signal to our cells to say that there's a threat. So our cells kind of respond, our body responds to our thinking very closely. You know, the two are very intimately linked. And if we're constantly, innocently sending these signals to our cells that there's a threat, then they don't function as well. So when we kind of let that go and allow ourselves to just expand beyond that thinking and come back to our natural state, our true nature, there's a natural kind of lightness about that that you can feel it in your body. You just feel lighter. Yeah, cells love it.
So one of the feelings that I'm getting is that I feel like you'd be able to answer is a lot of times when we have all these things that are happening to us, we get these heavy feelings of being overwhelmed. How can we navigate that and work through that?
Mm. That's a good question because, excuse me, most people know what that feels like. It's very common in life now to feel overwhelmed every so often. But I think the key here is to recognize what we're dealing with is we're not dealing with circumstances or other people or relationships or business deadlines. What we're dealing with is our thoughts about those things.
Mm.
So when you get clear on that, you realize, oh, hang on a second, I actually have some influence here about whether I choose to believe that or not. So it kind of brings you back to that place of your own power, where you can begin to decide whether you give your attention to thoughts that are not helpful or whether you let them run away with you. You know, this is about getting a sense of perspective about our personal thinking and realizing that we're not that, we're bigger than that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that can really help with overwhelm and practicing opening up beyond that constriction of thought and bringing your awareness and your attention beyond that um, to the sense of spaciousness that is around it. Because when you open up to that, you realize you're not confined to one line of thought, you're open to possibilities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Wow.
Yeah.
So is that where during this process you created the framework called inner success? Is that where all of that originated from? And I mean, it sounds like that's exactly what that means is focusing on those inner thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beginning to get control of your inner world. Um, you know, people can be very successful on the outside and have all the stuff, you know, everything set up externally. But not feel fulfilled and not feel like they're actually enjoying their life. And that's a different quality. That's a different practice or skill, you could say. But learning to tune to your true nature is where you'll find fulfillment. And that means learning who you are before all the assumptions that we've made throughout the years, coming back to that essence, that kind of clarity and it's a space of kind of presence, I guess you could say, or lightness, where you're open to possibilities, open to fresh thinking, open to solutions. You're at your most creative. It's a it's a it's a light space to be in, and it's also dynamic because you'll get the nudge to do the right thing at the right time or to say the right thing at the right time, and you don't have to spend hours worrying about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a different skill, but it's to me it's the missing piece. If people get this bit right on the inside, work from the inside out, the rest of the life begins to fall into place.
So where does somebody start when they want to get to that level?
Mm. I guess beginning to notice their thinking and notice how they feel when particular thoughts arise. Just because often we don't realize that we're thinking it, we just assume it's true. We assume that whatever is going on in our heads is actually truth, yeah? And we buy
Mm-hmm.
into it straight away. And it's just that little bit of distance, that little pause to consider, oh, hang on a second, that's not a truth, that's just a perspective. It's just a suggestion, it's not actually true. So getting to understand that you don't have to be controlled by your thoughts is probably the first thing, and noticing how you're feeling, how your thinking feels to you is one of the most important things.
So how do we get to that point of being able to recognize our thoughts in the moment? Because if we're in that previous example of when you're overwhelmed with all these things going on, I
Mm.
feel like it would be really hard to sit there and notice one of these thoughts in the moment. So how do we begin that process of recognizing your thoughts in the moment?
Yeah, and it's very hard. I call these thought storms. If you get caught in a thought storm, often it just takes over and there's nothing you can do. And that's okay. But simply being aware of that, simply noticing it is enough. When you start to just notice it already, it brings you a little bit further back from the thought storm. It doesn't consume you so much. Excuse me. You'll feel it. You'll still feel it and you'll still feel the turbulence of it. But having the awareness that I'm actually observing it, that little bit of distance means that it's not completely consuming you. So it may seem like you're doing nothing to begin with, but noticing is actually one of the most powerful things you can do. And the more you do that, you'll find yourself catching it earlier when it happens, because it may come round again and again, and that's okay. Just noticing that you have an uncomfortable thought going on and not acting on it. I think that's one of the big things.
Mm-hmm.
People make really poor decisions when they feel like they have to because they're caught in a pattern of thinking that they believe is real.
Mm-hmm.
And there are billions of dollars wasted because of that, and lots of relationships that don't make it because of that. So it's being more and more aware of that's actually a thought pattern, and it doesn't feel good to me, so I'm not going to buy into it. It can be there right now, but I'm not going to act on it. That's probably the most important thing to begin with, I would say.
Do you have any tips for breaking that cycle? So after we recognize, hey, this is my thought, how do people break that thought and not make that a habit?
Mm. Well, I heard a good thing once that a habit is something that's unconscious. So you just act it out. Yeah. You're not aware that you just do it because that's what you've always done. But once you become aware of it, it's not a habit, it's a choice.
Mm.
Okay. So this is about becoming taking responsibility for and becoming consciously aware of what you're choosing to buy into, you see?
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes you can't help it. You know, sometimes you'll get sucked into it, and that's okay. I think the other part of this is don't be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself because it is part of the human condition. We all have thought storms. They will come and go. It's part of being human. It's okay if you get caught in it. So don't freak out. It's fine, you know.
Hmm.
But just, you know, being kind to yourself and noticing that that's what's happening. And I'm just going to let this storm ride itself out before I do anything about it. Is probably the wisest thing to do.
Hmm.
The other thing I would say is breathing is very helpful. You know, just taking a few breaths, it might sound like a cliche, but it's actually very powerful in shifting your whole physiological state. You know, so when you consciously bring your attention to your breath, you just notice the feeling of the breath going in through your nose, down into your lungs, feel your lungs expanding, realizing you're bringing in fresh oxygen and breathing out what you don't need anymore. You know, just bringing your awareness to that. First of all, it takes your attention away from the thoughts onto something else,
Hmm.
but it also resets your physiology. Um, you're, you know, consciously slowing your breathing down. It lowers your heart rate, it lowers your blood pressure. It opens up your circulation to your prefrontal cortex, which is your decision-making center. You know, all of these systems come into balance when you just take a step back and take a few breaths. So it's a very simple but a very powerful tool that we can use when we feel we're caught in the thought storm.
Hmm. I know from my own experience how important it is to take a breath in one of those moments because it gives you the ability to almost be outside of yourself and see it from a new perspective of, oh, you know what, this isn't as bad as you feel like it is.
Yes. That's it. That's exactly the key. I think what you just said there is perfect. You know, you step outside of yourself, you step outside of your thinking patterns, and you're actually stepping into yourself, you know,
Mm,
looking at
yeah.
it from a new perspective and allowing just in that space, you allow fresh thinking to come along that will feel better to you. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So another thing that can happen in one of these moments where we're feeling overwhelmed or caught in a thought storm is we begin to lose our confidence in the moment. How can
Mhm.
we regain that confidence that we may have had before, but going through this event or situation, it kind of takes away from us?
Yeah. Again, that's a brilliant question. What I would say is that our confidence is innate. Like our natural state is naturally confident. It's not arrogant and it's not kind of unworthy. It's bang on in the middle,
Mhm.
confident and um, aware of the value you bring to the world because you wouldn't be here if you didn't have something to contribute. Everybody does, and the fact that you exist is, you know, is a mark of your value. So when you come back to your true nature and you let go of your thinking, your personal thinking, then you're back in this spaciousness where you just feel like everything's okay. And from that space, you are naturally confident. Like you don't hesitate in acting from that space. It doesn't feel like you have to think about it or worry about what people will think about you or any of that stuff. When you move from this space of your true nature, you tend to move, you move in the right direction for you, and it just feels right. So there's a natural confidence that comes from trusting that, I would say.
Hmm. So, do you feel like that is the process of when people create their purpose in life? It's almost like all these things that are happening to us are all aligning at the same point to find out who our true self is.
Yeah.
Interesting. I feel like the
Yes.
yeah, I feel like there's definitely things that are clicking where you start to look at things in your life and you see these events and how they're all disconnected, but they're actually all connected in a way, and that's how we create our purpose is each one of those moments defines us and helps us really realize who we truly are without all those outside noises or that outside judgment and all the fear. It's just our actual conscious saying, hey, by the way, this is who you actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, all the challenges that we go through in life are, we can look at them any way we choose, but essentially we can look at them as a negative experience or a positive experience. And if you can shape it in such a way that every challenge is here to help you grow, to help you, as you said beautifully there, to point you towards who you really are, then you don't get knocked over by the challenges so much. You begin to realize they're actually calling something from you that is truer to yourself.
Hmm.
So you kind of look forward to them sometimes eventually. Not that I would not that I would wish more challenges, but you don't get overwhelmed by them so much.
Hmm. I think once you make that connection of there's a reason why you're being challenged in this way, it makes it in a way almost exciting to some extent. Like, oh, like I wonder what's going to happen when I get through this, instead of, oh man, here's another thing that's just stopping me.
Absolutely. And that sense of curiosity, having that kind of open-minded sense of curiosity is, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what this is going to show me, is a wonderful way to approach any challenge. Because if you come at it from that place, you you become curious about what you're about to discover about yourself, what other quality or strength or um, ability you have within you that you didn't realize until this challenge showed up to highlight it.
Hmm.
Challenges show us who we're not when we buy into them, but as you say, they point us towards who we are when we use them in that way.
If people haven't gotten the point yet, to why do we need people to love from their true nature?
I think we're at a point in time now where there are a lot more people around the world realizing this. There are millions of people now waking up to the fact that they don't have to be run by their addictive thinking patterns. And, you know, all of the conflict, whether it's just between two people or between countries, all of the wars, the conflicts, um, the problems that we face in the world are down to people buying into negative assumptions about themselves or other people. So coming home to your true nature is essential, I would say now. The more people who wake up to this and who live from this space, you automatically move from a place where you see the best in yourself and other people. You're naturally compassionate, you're naturally kind, you're naturally confident. You contribute what you're here to give, and there is just it's another level of um, harmony that's available to us as a species, I would say. And I think now is a really important time for more people to step up and just in their own world, within themselves, decide that they're going to live from this space. They'll benefit from it. The people around them will feel better. Um, and you'll find that there's a ripple effect that happens when more people do this because everything is interconnected.
Kind of switching it up and not necessarily so personal. How do we
Mm.
take this information and translate that into our work environment?
Mm. Again, I think it's a great opportunity for the business world to step up and to evolve. Uh, Classically, business has been about the bottom line for a long time, and abundance, of course, it's important. It helps. The financial system is there as a value exchange. We need something to represent that. But more and more business leaders are waking up to living from wisdom instead of um, the isolated, disconnected state of where their mind runs the show, where their ego runs the show. More and more people are waking up to the fact that if they operate from this space, they will become more fulfilled, their business will do better, and it's better for society in general. So I think it's a really lovely time for businesses and business leaders to step into this space and lead from that space too.
For the employee side of things in the business world, how can people find joy at work, and how is that important to find joy in the work that you do?
Yeah, it's a great question again. I think we got to watch what definitions we just give things, because we can just assume that something is boring or repetitive or having to do the same thing again and again. But we're missing, that's a perspective. That's one way of looking at it, and it doesn't feel good. But when you actually step back and say, I'm showing up, I'm doing this job, and what I do matters, because if I wasn't here doing this, this piece of the puzzle wouldn't be here. So the whole thing wouldn't work. So recognizing your own value when you come to work, being proud of that, um, appreciating yourself first and what you have to offer. I think there's a natural joy that comes from that. Um, Knowing that you're part of a bigger system and that you're here to contribute something positive. But you can use, if you tune to this wisdom within you and this space of presence, you could say, you'll find that what you're doing doesn't actually matter that much, because you kind of set the tone for yourself first. Like, you decide that you appreciate yourself. You decide that today is going to be a joyful day, that you appreciate the fact that you're here. You woke up today, you could eat some food and you could get to your work. You have a job. All of these things that are often dismissed with repetition. It's just retuning that to a perspective that's healthier and lighter, that will make you feel more joyful. You'll enjoy your job more, and you'll get on with your colleagues more, I would imagine, and you'll do a better job.
I love that the theme of this entire episode has been how powerful your thoughts are, and the thoughts that you have are your own choices, they're your own decisions, and that's going to impact you in whatever situation that you're in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can't stop what thoughts show up for us, but we can choose what we do with them.
So now that we're getting near the end of the episode, I have three final questions, which I ask all the guests. And these are going to be over the topics of what the podcast is, which is live, love, and grow. So the first question that I have for you is, what advice can you share about how to create a life that leaves a positive impact on the world?
Be your true self. Don't be who you've assumed yourself to be through other people's assumptions. Find who that is within you before those assumptions and be that. Follow your joy, follow what lights you up, and be true to yourself.
Mm, love that. The next question I have is, what are some practical ways people can cultivate self-love?
Oh, that's a good question. When you begin to let go of your thinking, your personal thinking, you feel your state of being shift and change to something that feels open and spacious and comfortable and easy. And when you get curious about that, that and realize that this is me, the bigger part of me, it's infused with love. You can't help but love that. It's the fabric of it. So
Mhm.
getting to know that part of yourself more and allowing yourself just to experience it and feel it is, as I see it, true connection with self-love.
The final question I have for you is, what is one actionable tip someone can do today to grow 1% better?
Notice your thinking and decide if that's truly you or not. And if it's not you, let it go and get curious about who you really are.
Mm, that's a great answer. And it's again, I love how everything is on theme too.
Yeah.
So how can people connect with you?
I have a website. It's hello@libbymcgugan.me, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So it's Dr. Libby McGugan. Uh, and if you wanted, I have a book, The Power of the Lemon, which is based on mind, body, heart, soul, which you can find in Balboa Press or on Amazon. And you can read a little bit more about this, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And how can the audience support you on your journey?
Oh, that's lovely. I would say if you, because I am working with business leaders, and if you know of any business leaders who are open to this and who want to evolve in the way they lead, then get in touch, let me know, and we can see if it's something I can help with. And apart from that, just be your true selves. That helps everyone. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Libby, it was great having you on here. I know that I personally learned a lot, and I hope that somebody else took something away from this episode that they can apply today to learn who they truly are and also begin to love who that person is.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been lovely speaking to you, Matt. Thanks for the great questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast. I hope you took something away from this episode that you can implement today, just like I did. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I have a lot of great guests scheduled for this month that focus on mental health. During the month of May, I will be providing free resources to help improve our mental health. You can expect these resources to be sent to your emails if you subscribe to the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow newsletter. You won't want to miss these episodes. If you've enjoyed this episode, the ones before, and or you're looking forward to future episodes, please hit the subscribe or follow button. It helps me get this information to even more people. No matter what you do, choose to live, love, and grow. Thank you, and have an outstanding day.